It's 9 a.m. Pretty sexy.
Are you in Portugal or Spain right now?
Pete's the one in Spain. We're trying to get him on. I'm actually in San Diego area, Carlsbad, California, Southern California right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes more sense. Yeah. So what time is it for?
Doing a little.
What time is it for him? It's late at night, right?
Yeah.
5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's evening for him.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Are you from I should get to this on the show, but are you born and raised in the States there, like in California, or did you move there?
Yeah. I grew up. I mostly lived in California, and as an adult started moving around. But we've been in Portland, Oregon for 22 years.
Oh yeah. That's all that area. When I go out that way, it reminds me of here. Like, it seems to be an easy adjustment from Southern Ontario, like not Toronto, but like the rest of us. It seems like an easy adjustment for me as a Canadian to go to California. Have you found that? Have you been there?
I mean, no.
It's an adjustment when you come here?
Yeah, it still is. I mean, San Diego area, it's like, you know,
I guess San Diego,
mild and sunny most of the year.
Yeah. The weather-wise, I see.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, the people and the kind of like the diversity of, I guess it's like we are in the summer. That's
sure.
Because you have the same like kind of crops and same like attitude. It's a little, you know.
Yeah, for sure. The Pacific Northwest in particular is, I don't know. I think it's fairly unique to the U.S.
Yeah,
pretty chill.
It's pretty chill. Yeah, and it's West Coast. Everything West Coast, U.S. Like, I don't know, man. I don't think U.S. wise, there aren't many places I'd move to that aren't on the West Coast. General.
No, I feel that. It's the East Coast has that same thing that we have in Ontario and Quebec. It's just that pace that's like nightmarish.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, totally.
And people are just climbing over each other all the time to get everywhere. You know?
Right.
Where it seems like, you know, even though you have like congestion and traffic and like all that craziness on the West Coast, it's still like the people are chill. Like and that's the same with BC. The same with if you're on that side of the mountains, everything's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's a more general, I don't know, generally chill vibe. You know, it's intense, but I got to tell you, driving down here from Oregon to Southern California, there were sections of the drive where it was like, how are we not all dying right now? Like everybody's doing 90, you know, and it's dark and there's trucks, and man, there was a section of the drive where I was like, how are we not in a 50 car pileup right now? There's so many idiots on the road. Yeah,
I feel that way more and more as time goes on. And you know what? You used to think it was like a old person behind the wheel. And,
I know.
And now you look at it, it's like a teenager. They're driving like an old lady. Okay, is that better for you?
No, I'll just. Because you want me to face this way, right?
Okay, I just want you. Whichever way is going to work better for you. No, that works where it was. Then we'll just keep it like that. Okay, I'm sorry, Tim.
Where's our Spaniard?
Yeah, where is our Spaniard, Jamie? Do you have any updates on him? Because we can actually probably get going. This has kind of been like a cold open anyway, and then we'll just go. I'll do the thing we do, and then if Pete comes in during the show, then we just include him. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give this as a signal if he messages me.
All right.
With a positive thing. He'd be the fourth. Unless that's too conceptual. Hey, here we go.
Really?
Yeah, he's coming.
All right.
Yeah, bro.
You hear me? You see me? Whatever me?
Hey, there we all are.
There he is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Welcome.
All right.
We have it seems like the whole world together almost, at least half of it, right? So we got morning, afternoon, and night. Welcome. We're almost, nice to meet you, Pete. I'm Pete.
You too, Pete. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. We were just chatting a little bit, getting familiar with each other, and now we're going to do this thing. If I can work it out, this thing that we do to start our show that we call the theme song. Is that all right?
Yeah. Let's
hear it.
Do it, man.
Welcome, everybody, to the Dutch Hall. We're coming to you live from the Pool Shed in Pine Grove, Ontario, for episode 445. Believe it or not, 445 times we have done this stupid thing. And this time we have roped two people from different parts of the planet and one person who was from here but had to come back here on a long journey today.
That's right.
And I'm very happy to have them in, all first-timers, all Dutch Hall virgins. And they're here to promote a podcast, which is a really interesting concept, especially for a guy like me from Southern Ontario. The Hip was really a band that was pivotal. Is that right?
That's right.
Pivotal to a kid like me. It came up at the right time. They were like hitting at the same time that I was getting into being the awesomest part of my life, you know? And these guys, two of these fellas have no such experience at all. One of these fellas would have a very similar one. And the idea of the podcast is to let these two guys understand what us two guys feel about this band. And so did I introduce myself yet, Jamie?
Yeah, you haven't really, no.
Oh, well, I'll start off by introducing myself. I am the host of the show and two-time, you're supposed to say two-time.
Two-time.
There you go. President's Club Award winner Pete Van Dyke. No applause. And our guest today, the one that's come from Waterford, Ontario, he's a Waterford native.
That's right.
Norfolk County boy, but he's moved to the big city and he's made a life for himself. First time here in the Dutch Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Jamie Dew, everybody. Jamie Dew.
It is great to be back.
There you go. Great to be back to Norfolk, you mean?
Great to be back in Ontario's garden.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Shout out to us. And our guest, and you're going to have to help me, Jamie, on the last names here.
That's right. I will.
From San Diego, California, is Tim Lyon. Tim Lyon, everybody. Oh,
I'll take it. Yeah. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tim. And coming from
Malaga, Spain. This is Pete from Spain.
He doesn't have a last name?
Yes, of course he does. Marchica.
Pete Marchica, everybody. Pete Marchica. Thank you.
My middle name is from Spain.
What's your middle name?
From Spain.
Oh,
I'm joking.
Pete from yes. You know, actually, I have a nephew, and his middle name. His name is Adrian Adventure Petoskey, and it's just so he could go around. His parents named him that so he could tell people my adventure is my middle name. Right?
Is that real?
I love it.
That's my nephew.
Totally real.
That's real. That's my nephew. That is cool. You want to get named. It's like your parents just made you James Bond.
Yeah.
Right? It just made you cool as shit. Now this kid's got to live up to that middle name. He's got to live life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Hopefully he's not trepidatious of everything.
Yeah, what if he's just like an accountant, you know?
Then he'll probably be cooking the books.
Yeah. The name like Adventure, that's just a gift. That's a gift from your parents. So I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Or a curse. I wanted to say the band we're talking about is Tragically Hip.
That's right.
The band Tragically Hip is from Kingston, Ontario. And for some reason, the Tragically Hip have been a band that have made it in Canada. They were enormous in Canada, but as much as we tried to explain them to the rest of the world just didn't get them.
No.
Would you agree with that, Jamie?
I would agree with that. And these two are the avatars for the rest of the world.
Yeah. And now, is there a band either in the United States or in Spain that you would say would be like a band that is beloved in your country, but the rest of the world doesn't get it? You know?
Ooh, Tim, you want to take that one for the U.S.?
Oof, tough one.
Yeah, that is a tough one for U.S. actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because I feel like if you break,
I'm going to have to do some homework.
I feel like if you break in the U.S., part of that breaking in the U.S. is breaking internationally.
Yeah, like the rest of the world will like what you guys like. There's not much that you guys like. Unless there's some guy like, what's the name of that fella? He's like, proud to be an American, or like they were like one of those country guys who were really like patriotic and over the top. That might be a little bit.
That's the country singer. What's his name?
That might be too much for like people outside the States.
Yeah, it's true. No, I know what you're saying.
What's this guy's name? The big.
Yeah, I know who
you know what I mean. See, that's what I mean. We're from Canada. We don't know the guy's name.
Denim vests.
Yeah, we got tons of them. How about Spain?
There's a band here called Los Planetas, which translates to the planets, if you will. And, they're extremely popular. I mean, they've got there's a couple of the members have spin-off bands. I mean, you can't go to any corner of this country and not know somebody who knows Los Planetas. And they're started as an indie rock band, sort of like, I guess you'd say the Hip did. But yeah, dude, if you mention Los Planetas outside of Spain, nobody knows what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've never heard of them. Yeah.
I know that the Tragically Hip themselves were friends with the band, the Rio Statics out of England, because they had the same issue as them. They were huge in England, but the rest of the world.
Rheostatics are from
not Rheostatics. Stereophonics. I always say those bands wrong.
I was about to correct.
Yes, I apologize. Rheostatics actually opened for the Hip. I remember. Yeah.
Right.
But the Stereophonics, and so they'd always, if they came out with an album, the Hip would give an album to the Stereophonics. Stereophonics would give an album to the Hips when they came out with a new one, because they had this mutual, like sister cities and stuff like that. It was like the same thing, but they're like sister bands, I
feel like the last time Stereophonics played in Toronto, it was post Gord dying, and they played a Hip song.
Yeah, that would make a huge sense.
And I didn't know that there was that connection. I just thought they were just doing a tribute to.
Oh no, they were big fans of it, each other, and they both had the same thing. They could never break in the States, and they were huge in their own countries. And even in Canada, the Stereophonics didn't really make too much of a splash.
I just remember that "Have a Nice Day" song.
Yeah, I like that band actually.
Yeah.
But
I can only think of bands from the U.S. that have done well outside the U.S. Like bigger tours outside the U.S.
But there are a ton of Canadian bands that have broken through too. I mean, for Christ's sake, you got Neil Young, you've got Alanis, you've got Bryan Adams,
Rush,
Nickelback.
Nickelback, yeah.
That one band, Rush, is that what they're called?
Yeah, Rush.
Yeah.
Jeez, I mean, one of the greatest bands of all time.
Yeah. It's a real crowd splitter, Rush.
I agree, because I was never a Rush guy.
If you like Rush, you really like Rush.
Big time.
I think it's like Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen, the guys that like Bruce, they love Bruce. They really like.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We have a good friend who follows Bruce, and I just.
Yeah, they're like, they follow
you were talking about that.
Oh, God bless Michelle.
Yeah, I have my cousin's husband is like that. He's traveled all around to see Bruce, and he knows him it means so much to him. I envy that about him, but I just don't get it.
Yeah,
it just doesn't hit me.
I like Springsteen, but I wouldn't do a follow along or.
Yeah, you're in camp too. Either you love him or you're like, oh, he's the he's good. I I like a couple. You know, I like it enough. It's just fine.
There's lots of bands I would go see perform live if I got a free ticket. And
I got free tickets to see Springsteen. That's the only reason I saw him. But back in the day, I think we told this on the pod, or I may have mentioned it on the pod when we recorded. But back in the day, when I started playing in bands, like 25 years ago, if you were a Rush fan, you were closeted. Like, and I'm not even like joking. Like in the US, like if you liked Rush and you had Rush records, you were closeted. You didn't talk about it. I remember I was playing in a band with a guy named Jason Hirsch, and he was our bass player. And we played in a band for like 7 or 8 months. And then one day I went over to his house, and it was like I found a bunch of porno mags in his corner. Like he's like, yeah, dude, I like Rush, and like the same was for Zappa. And I was like, dude, it's cool, man. This is a safe space.
Yeah, I have a huge kit set up in the closet. I drummed to Neil Peart all the time. That's funny, man. But it was kind of that. There was like you didn't know if you're because they split the room. You either love like people hated Rush or they loved Rush. Even in Canada, they're hardcore. I don't get it. I think it might be musicians though too. Musicians like Rush, right? Because they're
technical.
Yeah, I mean, because you just the work of like the musicianship is like the fact that Geddy Lee can play, is multi-instrumentalist on stage and singing. It's just fucking stupid.
Yeah,
like
it's like it's like Radiohead too, eh? Like Radiohead, like if the musicians get them more than the non-musicians. Would you say that's true?
I don't think so. I think Rush had a special kind of nerddom, like if you ever knew like a group of kids that played D&D.
Yeah.
Like, like, I don't know, Rush has their own collective. Like I have lots of friends who are Radiohead fans, and many of whom are not.
We've now ostracized the Rush crowd from Pete's podcast, and we've now ostracized the D&D.
Yeah, I don't know if any of those people exist.
I still have D&D friends, so we're all good with each other.
I've never played before.
No,
have you done that? No?
Never. I won't touch a 12-sided.
I tried, like when it became a thing, I tried with some kids in my neighborhood, and I sat down with them, and I was like, are we going to drink some wine or, and I was in 7th grade. Like it felt like we were supposed to be naked, or I don't know. It was just weird.
Yeah.
It was really weird. It was like, how far can we take role play right now?
Yeah. You were
it's too much of a tease for me.
You may have been molested, eh? Like to be thinking about that way at a young age like that. Is that
we'll save that for a different time.
Okay. Yeah, we shouldn't probably do that. That's my fault. That's a bad host. That's a bad host. You don't ask. You don't accuse people of being.
You could give us the reveal all. That
would... Save it for the live show.
In
Toronto. You can ask the crowd that night. How many of you? Show of hands here. How many have been molested in the crowd?
Yeah. I'm kind of suspicious of this guy. No, I'm sorry. No, I was like that. You were saying Dungeons and Dragons it seemed a little like it was going to get a role. Did people wear costumes for that stuff?
Well, no. I just felt like it was this level of intellectualism. Like that wasn't being an experience in games, and Rush was kind of the same way. And maybe maybe the hip was too smart for the U.S.
Maybe. It might be. It might be like there's but I don't know how smart it was. It was like it's an interesting thing because I've only because of this podcast started, you kind of reflect on, I was I am a hip fan, but I don't know if I'm associating it. It's just because they were around through a good part of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was young and having a good time, and every show I went to, or I could see them a lot, so they were at a lot of like festivals and concerts that I would get a chance to go to.
They were always on at the bar. Like whatever bar you go to, they were playing hip,
Yeah.
They were like the LA, they were like Canada's version of X if you lived in LA, right, Tim?
Sure. Who are still playing.
Yeah, right. I know. But X, you could like go to any club on a given night in the 80s and 90s, and that band was playing.
Yeah,
and they're still playing.
Yeah,
they're still playing.
And then I never seen the other thing that I think was interesting about the Hip when you'd see them live is like I've seen a lot of bands that would jam, you know, like they would like jam out a song so it didn't sound like a radio version of it, like, but the Hip's the only one I can really say the vocalist was doing it too. Like where the vocalist was jamming vocals, you know? And so you'd go to see him at a show and he'd be like gibberishing up there, you know, while they were like jamming something else out in the middle of a song. And then you'd go see the next tour and it would actually be a song that was on that album, you know? And like, do you remember seeing that too?
Absolutely.
A lot?
Yeah, I always called it breadcrumbs, right? Like it was like little breadcrumbs.
And you're like, that's going to be something. Like I remember Nautical Disaster before it was Nautical Disaster, right? And then like, so like I thought that was kind of cool because you kind of, I don't remember another band that kind of let you in on the what's to come, you know? Yeah. Like and let you watch the creative process. Like the writing process on stage, you know, as obvious.
Maybe the Doors. You know?
Yeah. That's a good.
Jim Morrison did a fair amount of that, but there's not many. I mean, that was like lead singers riffing. You know, there's not many people are able to do that at all.
Because it's douchey. It really it has the potential to go a little bit self-aggrandizing, you know, like where it's like, look at me, I'm an intellectual. And, you know, even Jim Morrison and Gord Downie, they both kind of, their critics could accuse them of that, of being a little bit like, you know, in their own head or like too impressed by themselves. But I didn't get that impression from either of them, but because I liked them.
Yeah,
you know?
Me too.
But and I like watching the creativity of it, you know. But Doors is a perfect example because that would be I would say the closest, which I never got to see them. But
Pete, have you? Because I don't know how much you dug into the pod, but we, you know, one of the things that Tim and I have struggled with is that, you know, when we did the pod and we recorded everything, because everything's recorded up until this point pretty much. We're just kind of trickling the pods out leading up to the finale day. But like a lot of folks are like, yeah, you didn't fucking like you didn't like my bird. What the fuck is wrong with you? Goddamn it. But it's like, dude, we had a week to digest the record, and then it was week over week over week over week. And like some of these people, like, dude, had fucking a year, 2 years to like, and have had their whole lives to get to know this band. I think it's, you know, I'm not going to blow smoke up my own ass, but maybe I'll blow a little up Tim's ass. But we, you know, I think it's pretty impressive because at this point, now that we're kind of all done, I fucking love this band. I mean, I've gone back and listened to the records we weren't super keen on, and they're just, dude, I don't know what American rock fans were fucking thinking back in the day when this band was like peaking. Because
I really think that a big part of why they didn't quote make it in the US, which they did to a degree, they just weren't selling out stadiums. But I think a big part of it must have had to have been because of ill attempted marketing. Like when bands go on tour, there are people behind the scenes that are doing promotions in every city. They're hanging posters. They're giving away tickets. They're talking about on the radio, all of these things. You know, I have a buddy in LA who does this for a living. And I talked to him briefly about it, and he said marketing. Probably was marketing.
And
I'm like, oh, you know, and the labels that when the Hip was on with labels who weren't promoting them in the US, like, oh, they're going to play in these 6 epicenter cities. We're going to sell more, maybe, if all the Canadians show up. Sure, that was what happened. But man, if they were promoted more in a real way, like other bands on their US labels, which I can't remember right now, I think they would have totally hit it. When they were on In My House the other day, I said to my wife, if this was playing in 1992, I would have been totally into it, because we were talking about bands we were into in 1992. And some of them, like right now, I might have thought they were pretty good back then, but some of them right now, I absolutely do not listen to. But if I would have heard the Hip in 92, I would definitely be going back to albums right now. I believe.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's really all. But with both what you guys said, it's really interesting because it's not what I expected. Like, number one, you've just to let my audience know, you've been through the entire catalog of the Hip, which when you said it takes you time to process a Tragically Hip album. I mean, I remember like in real time when these things came out, and we would like line up at sunrise at midnight to get the new Road Apples or whatever, you know. And but each album, like Road Apples compared Up to Here, and Day for Night compared to Road Apples, or Fully Completely, you know, they were, as soon as you put in the new album, you were like this isn't as good as the last stuff, and then you'd listen to it like 100 times, and then it would become your favorite album, you know, like it
totally.
And I find Jack White, like I'm a huge Jack White fan, and it's the same thing with his stuff because he's pushing himself and he's growing, you know, and then it kind of takes you a bit to get your head around what he's trying to do. And then after a while, you start digging it, you know.
That's a good example.
And I think that's the kind of like you never liked a Hip album when you first got it. You always liked it a couple weeks later, you know, like sorry.
Is that true? Is that true for you, Jamie? Were there any albums you just were like just had on repeat, psyched, go, listen to it 100 times in a week?
I was in love with like from the moment I heard it. Like so.
There you go.
But and Fully Completely too. Trouble at the Hen House. The first time I heard it, I was like, I'm not sure about this. But you're right. It was different. They were. You're right. They were growing, and I was stuck behind.
Yeah.
Now that's like my favorite record.
Yeah.
Like hands down.
Yeah, and then like Up to Here was the only one I would say that I was like, I'm in. Everything's great. And then the only thing is that a lot of songs kind of sounded similar, maybe, but then everything, I was comparing everything to Up to Here, and then and that's just, and then I just wasn't like you said, I wasn't developing like that's why it takes me a bit just to catch up because I'm slow. I'm just, you're just a consumer. You're being fed shit. You only know what you know, and then get something new and it takes you a bit.
But you also never know how long it's going to take. I had a record I won't even mention because it's just not even important, but a record from a band that I really liked. And it took 7 years. 7 years. It came out in 2007, and it wasn't until 2014 when I picked it up again. And I literally thought this was the shittiest record I had ever heard. And I picked it up again, and it turns out being my favorite record. And it was like it takes time. But for what Tim and I, the gauntlet that fucking JD's put us through the last 7 months, like
how many albums?
There's 14.
14 albums.
14 or 15, yeah.
Wow. And then, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. So what was I thinking? Oh, David Bowie's Black Star? That album?
Yeah.
The last album?
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. I was like, I wanted Ziggy Stardust and I got Black Star. I was upset. And then you listen to it and you're like, this is the greatest thing he's ever done.
Man, that album's incredible.
Oh, yeah. And then the more you know, like the fact that he leaves on an open note, like he doesn't end on the top.
On the home note, the one.
He doesn't end on the one, and he knows he's going to die, that's crazy.
That album, it's funny because I remember when I bought that album right when it came out right after he died, because he died a couple days before my birthday, because he died a few days after his birthday, which is January 8th. Mine's the 16th. And I bought it and I just didn't, I wanted to get it. I couldn't. And then a friend, when I moved back to Spain, explained to me that it was a lot of the songs are built on flamenco chords, Spanish flamenco chords. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. And then we listened to it together and he explained it to me. And I was like, as a drummer of our band, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then the whole record made sense to me.
Yeah.
But it took years.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing about music, our art in general. You know, like no matter what kind of the art, comedy is the same way. You can work your whole life. You're never going to know all there is to know about it. You're never going to. It's just so infinite in the amount. So like that's what I like about it. You know, like you're never going to feel like you've got all the answers. You know.
Yeah, when you find art like that, that's timeless. That's the best stuff, I think. You know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
something you can put on. I mean, just at any point in time. It's just those are the keepers.
Yeah,
I don't know if it'll feel the same way. Pete, have you gone back to any Bob Rock produced albums?
It's funny. I haven't yet, Tim, but I really am looking forward to it because I think it's going to happen. I think eventually I'll end up like sending a letter. Is Bob Rock still alive?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Okay, then I'll send him like an apology letter and like be like, Bob, I'm sorry.
Because there are people that love We Are the Same now. And when it came out, it was pretty universally derided. And there are people that absolutely adore that record now. And I'm one of them. Like I really did not like that record the first time I heard it. Like, I remember meeting Greg in the grocery store. We were doing Fully and Completely at the time. And I was like, so I did some pre-listening and, wow, every song sounds the same. It's all droney. It's, and now I think like Depression Suite is amazing. I love Morning Moon. Queen of the Furrows is like weird and out there, but I dig it. But it still doesn't feel quite like a hip record because there's no Langlois and Sinclair backup vocals. You know, it's just different.
Yeah, do you hear that? I think it was at the Junos or something. After Cord Downey died, Muse filled in, and they did. She did it's not. I said the wrong name. Feist.
Yeah, Leslie Feist.
Feist did the vocals.
Yeah,
and it was for It's a
Good Life If You Don't Weaken.
Yeah, It's a Good Life If You Don't Weaken. And but like when the background vocals kicked in, and then it was like, then you're like, oh, this is the hip, yeah.
So
and then because before it was just a cover, and then as soon as you heard Sinclair's backing, it was like, oh man, this is cool,
Yeah.
I was asking Pete because this morning when Amy was making coffee, I was like, "Coffee girl." It just happened. So Bob is coming in. Hey, Bob's knocking on the door.
Hey, I was hoping so this is really cool. If you guys who are listening to this show, if you want to check out this podcast and see how these two people were converted to the ways of the Tragically Hip, how can they find the show, Jamie?
Go to gettinghiptothehip.com and you can, or anywhere that you find your podcasts.
You'll get Getting Hip to the Hip, and this is going to all culminate with a grand finale live show.
That's right.
In Toronto on September 1st.
Yes, sir.
And people can get tickets for the show.
Same place, gettinghiptothehip.com, and click on tickets. And, we've got a great host for that evening.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it'll be hosted by myself. And we have the finale of the podcast. And you have entertaining the audience of... was it 50 Mission Cap? Or
50 Mission.
50 Mission, which is a hip cover band that will be playing. And where is it?
It's at the Rec Room in Toronto on Bremner, right across from the Sky Dome.
Oh, sweet. It's going to be super fun. So please check us out. And we will be running a draw here on the Dutch Hall for a listener to get a free ticket to the event.
How about a pair?
A pair. Yeah. You can bring a friend. Thank you.
That's nice. Yeah.
And I can even give you a ride if you want, if you're local. So we got all those things working for us, and there'll be details on that at the end of the show. But I don't want to keep these guys any longer doing business.
Is the Sky Dome where the Blue Jays play?
Yeah.
Oh fuck, that'd be cool if they're playing a game then.
They're not. They're out of town. Or we take you to a game for sure.
Hey Pete, I've been wanting to tell you a joke, man. Can we tell you a joke?
Yeah, please do.
Just
after he's done, then Pete, you play guitar to Pete in Spain, so you guys could trade.
Yeah, you have to do that.
Trade your talents.
I know 2 chords.
So you know Creedence, right? You know Creedence Clearwater, right?
Yeah, CCR, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know what the difference between John Fogerty and Marvin Gaye is?
No, I don't.
So Marvin Gaye heard it through the grapevine, but John Fogerty played it through the grapevine.
Yeah, like that's okay.
Yeah, right? Tim just snickered at that one. It's one of my all-time favorites.
Whoa.
Man.
Don't tell that at the finale, people.
Yeah.
Let it slip.
Only if I'm really stuck, I'll pull that one out of the toolbox.
Dude, that one's Pete's if you don't like it.
No, guys, I want to thank you for spending this time with me and getting for taking the time to get to know me and my audience. I really am excited about the podcast, and I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I hope so.
You guys did kind of shit on them a little bit, right? They
don't hold back.
Yeah. But I think it is interesting to know that even some of the opinions that you held not so long ago may have already changed by the time the finale's going to be.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Totally have.
Yeah. That's cool, man. And I think that's kind of a testament to why I think they're worthy enough to still be concentrating on, is because this shit can happen, like this stuff can really happen where people can be turned on to something new and it's new to them. So who cares if Gord's dead? Like these guys never, if you never heard it, like my daughter's a perfect example. Her and the bass player in her band said, did you hear, remember when the Hip came out with those new tracks?
Yeah.
And they were all like 90s era. They were like sounding.
Road Applesy. Yeah.
Yeah. They were great, and my daughter's friend brought that to me and they're like, have you heard this? And then they started getting into it and it was brand new to them. And
that's
so
hilarious.
Like to watch my kids get into it, what I was into is really a kick. So like, and then like, I think that this is a great example of it. And, one time I went fishing in BC and the guy was Australian that was like running our tour. And I asked him about the question, what in your country is the band that you guys would love and nobody else gets?
Did he say Midnight Oil?
He did say Midnight Oil.
Knew it.
And I go, well, we all know Midnight Oil, like Beds Are Burning. And he goes like, fuck that song, like you guys don't know Midnight Oil if you think it's Beds Are Burning. Look into their back catalog when they're a punk band, and it was way different.
Really?
Way different and nothing like anything that made them popular. But it's maybe there's bands like this everywhere, I never knew about like all that old good soul music because it never played on any radios that I got to listen to, like I just found out about Al Green like 5 years ago. Like that breaks my heart, where was Al Green my whole life? But, so there's a lot of good stuff out there. And I think this podcast kind of shines a light on that. So, I think it was going to be well worth checking out. So Getting Hip to the Hit, check it out, everybody. Pete and Tim, thank you very much for doing this for me.
Yeah. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, JD. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah. And we will see you on September 1st.
Sounds great.
See you September 1st. Can't wait.
All right. Take care, guys. Okay. I guess we'll just continue.
Sure.
Because I got this on record and then I'll just bash them together. And because we only did 35 or so.
All right.
It was saying like I only had so much time left and then it wouldn't record or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of cut it. But I think I got a lot.
I think you rolled it up. Nice.
Yeah. And then I'll just bookend it with the rest of it. I'll just do my sponsors quick and then we'll do the ending.
Sure.
Okay, so this show would be nothing without our sponsors at CleanFlow. If you'd like to support them, go to cleanflow.com. That's KLEENFLO.com and check out all the great products. Lube up your life with CleanFlow. And if you'd like to support our show, go to patreon.com/Dutch Hall and you can join our queen, Jen Husko, and being a part of Dutch Hall royalty. And if you're a business that's looking at any sponsorship opportunities, you can also look on Patreon and look at options there. And every time someone on our show gets a little tight ass about what we're putting out on social media, I will put that on Patreon. There was one just recently that Kevin made me not agree not to put out, so I put that on Patreon. And we also have the one that Charters obviously banned us from putting out. It's on Patreon, so all the banned material's on there. So it is well worth the money. There'll be content, and you'll also get invited to special events like my 50th birthday show that's going to be happening in October. This will happen if you join our Patreon, or if you even are too cheap to do that, you can go and give us $5 a year. Just e-transfer that to thedutchhall@gmail.com, and you will become a shareholder of our program, and shareholders get the same rights as the Patreon supporters do. So that's a way you can help us out as well. And lastly, go support Johnny's show at the Lazy Flamingo in Huss Village in Hamilton every Monday. Starts around 8:30, 9-ish, around there. Go to see Johnny at the Lazy Flamingo, and I will be headlining there tomorrow. And that is it. That is all of our sponsors, I think. Oh, feedback. You can give us some... Fuck. Oh, no, that's not it yet. It's this one. You can give us some feedback at thedutchhall@gmail.com, or we are at Dutch Hall on Instagram. That is it for sponsors, Jamie. That is it for sponsors, I promise. That's everything. And, of course,
hey, you got to keep
getting hip to the hip. What?
You got to keep the lights on.
Got to keep the lights on, exactly. Getting hip to the hip. And go get some tickets to the grand finale, the Rec Room in Toronto on September 1st. Jamie, thanks again for coming in. Thank you very much. It's been really nice, and as I said, I've been watching you promote this thing. I've been watching you put it together, and the way that you have curated it, the way that you've cared for it, and the way that you've put thoughtful effort into every step of it, it shows through. This is being done at a high level, and I'm really proud of the effort you put in. So Keep it up, and I'm going to continue to support everything you do, because I'm real happy to know a guy like you. So thanks for coming in, buddy.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Finally.
Yeah, finally. Yeah, right. We worked it out.
Yeah.
So everyone, that's been our show, 445. Tell a friend. Share it around. Be nice to each other. And until next week, we will see you, NT. See you next Thursday.
And I still have to fucking get close to things and do this. I don't understand it. Somebody told me the other day, oh, you need bifocals. I was like, I fucking got them. God.